So, for the second talk titled My Experiences on the Front Lines Against COVID 19, we had Sumedh Kolkar, who is co founder and director of electronics in Inacle. Before starting the talk and inviting him, I would like to give a brief bio of Sumedh. Sumedh is a co founder at one of India's leading medtech innovation startups, Inacle Technologies. He graduated from BITS Pilani with a degree in electrical and electronics engineering in 2015, and he has ever since been working on various technologies disrupting the Indian healthcare industry. He has worked on devices across multiple domains in the medical industry, right from maternal and child care, respiratory care, and critical care devices. So now I welcome Sumedh to take over.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So I'm Sumedh. Introduced, I'm the co-founder at Inaxel Technologies. So we are a Bangalore-based medical technology startup. So my startup journey started back in college itself. So in my last year of college, I did a thesis on fetal ECG-based systems and spun a company out of it. And in after my journey for about 4 to 5 years, my first company, which was Satwa MedTech, got acquired by Inaxel Technologies, where I'm now a co-founder and the director of electronics team, the entire embedded team. So I just wanted to share my experiences over the last 2 years, where Naxel has been leading the fight against COVID in multiple ways, and just take you through some of my experiences and learnings from the same, and what sort of work we have done and what sort of work we have planned for the future, as well as if anyone is interested in medical technologies, what sort of goals or objectives or mindset you should have towards developing new technologies in this domain. So I'll just start. Give me one second. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah, hi. So that's me. So I always usually start my presentations with this quote. It's by a very famous science fiction author. If I could time travel into the future, my first port of call would be the point where medical technology is at its best, because like most people on this planet, I have the aversion to dying. It usually is a very apt quote, but it's more important and more relevant, and seems just a little more right in the current days. In the last 1.5 years, we've seen how like the advancements in medical technology have really helped save a lot of people, and deal against the brunt of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I thought this was a very apt way to begin the presentation. So what is medtech? Basically, medical technology is an aspect of technology that is with you throughout your entire life. Even before you are born, you're exposed to medical technology in the form of, let's say, simple ultrasounds or Dopplers, or even a simple stethoscope that the doctor uses to listen to your heartbeat when you're just 6-week-old fetus. Even that's a part of medical technology. And then going forward, you have pediatrics, you have neonatals. In your adult life, you would visit a doctor at least, let's say, once or twice a year, and every single action that he takes, every single decision that he takes, every diagnosis that makes is all enabled through medical technology. We have multiple fields across their entire life cycle. You keep on being in touch with medical technology, and it is really what has helped increase the quality of life, increase the life expectancy, and one of the main causes of advancements in humankind in general, and civilizational growth overall, I would say, is determined by medical technology and innovations in the same. So it's an aspect that we will be in touch with throughout your life, and it's hence a very important industry. And one of the old adages is that the two industries that will never see a recession is food and medtech. Because people always need to eat, and people always will fall sick, and they need to be treated. And so medical technology is like a recession-proof industry. It'll always be useful and it'll always be helpful. So that's the entire life cycle of medical technology. Uh, there's also a very important concept that I think everyone should understand. It's called the life cycle of care. So it's a tool that is used in medtech innovation to figure out where in the whole chain of events uh, the technology or the solution that you're building comes into picture. So it goes prevention, detection, diagnosis, treatment, and management. So prevention would be something as simple as taking the right medication on time to ensure that you don't have some sort of a deficiency in, let's say, iron deficiency for people prone to anemia, or better diet habits for people who are prone to diabetes, or similarly, like let's say insulin, taking insulin for people who are prone to diabetes as well. That sort of comes in prevention. Detection is all sort of screening devices that you see. Like one of the famous example that is always given is Arvind Eye Care, which has built its entire model based on screening of eye-based ailments like glaucoma or early onset of cataract and other such uh, disorders of the eye. So that sort of falls into the detection phase. Diagnosis is all your sensor based medical devices like your X-ray machines, MRI machines, ultrasounds, and CAT scans. All those devices that the doctor would use to detect and diagnose what specific ailment that a person is undergoing. Even that, so that particular slice belongs to diagnosis. Even in treatment, you have multiple devices. That's one of the specialities of Inaxel. We make a lot of treatment related devices, and our core focus in that is in respiratory devices. I'll come to that later in the slides. But treatment can be any sort of from life saving support devices, like your ventilators, respiratory devices, or it could be let's say treatment of physical ailments, so any sort of braces or other orthopedic devices that are given, those come under treatment. And for management, obviously not all, one of the things that is very necessary to understand in medtech is not all diseases can be cured. Some can only be managed. Like you cannot inherently cure diabetes completely. You can only manage the symptoms of it with regular intake of insulin and better dietary habits. So that is it in itself is an entire class of medical devices that go into management. One of the most advanced devices in this space you can think of is a pacemaker. Pacemaker is used to treat arrhythmia and bad heart condition. So there's no cure for that except for maybe a heart transplant. But in replacement of that, a pacemaker is something that helps you manage heart conditions, and that is something with you for the rest of your life. So this is sort of a what's called a life cycle of care. It's a very popular term that's used in medical device innovations to sort of understand where in the whole ecosystem, what sort of solution you're proposing fits into, and where you're trying to find a right fit for, and where you want to deploy your solution. So, like I was saying, Inaxel is a company that sort of focuses on the treatment space. In that scenario, we have one of our devices, which is called SaaS Neonate. So, I'll just play the video so that you get a brief introduction of the device. And please let me know if the audio is not.
Every year, 160,000 neonates die due to respiratory distress in India alone. While this condition is typically treated with CPAP therapy, access to CPAPs in emerging markets is often limited to tertiary centers with NICUs. The Sens neonatal CPAP from Inaxel Technologies addresses this gap. It is the world's first infrastructure-independent, easy-to-use, portable neonatal CPAP system that can be used in any clinical settings, including hospitals of all care levels as well as transport. Sens has an inbuilt compressor, air-oxygen blending, and provides accurate output flow and pressure control through a valve-based system. The device can be powered with electricity, has a 4-hour inbuilt battery backup, and in worst case scenarios has a unique manual powering mode. Furthermore, SANS requires minimal skill requirement for operation and is compatible with standard patient interfaces, making it suitable for low resource settings as well. SANS is a unique CPAP device that can be used in multiple settings. Long-term CPAP therapy can be provided in NICUs by connecting SANS to any standard humidifier. CPAP therapy can be provided during transport, both intra-hospital from labor room to NICU and inter-hospital, even in private vehicles. SANS has won numerous Indian and global innovation awards, including the prestigious Commonwealth Innovation Award. For more information, please visit www.inaxle.com or write to us at info@inaxle.com.
So that is a bit about our one of our product offerings called SaaS Neonate. So this was a device that we launched in 2018, 2019, and we have started pilots across India. And this was a device that was specifically targeted towards low resource settings, as I explained in the video, where people don't really have access to a lot of advanced equipment or do not have the necessary resources to afford advanced ventilators and advanced equipment. This is a device that provides respiratory support or breathing support to premature babies after labor room, just after delivery. If the baby doesn't have well-developed lungs, this is a device that provides support to it, respiratory support. So
every year.
So at a high level, I just wanted to explain the architecture of how any respiratory device, this does not just apply to ours, but any respiratory device, how it is built. So as you can see, most respiratory devices will give a mixture of air and oxygen. If someone is not able to breathe properly or is having breathing difficulties, the main symptom of that is their body will not be able to absorb as much oxygen as it needs to. So in order to counter that, instead of giving them regular air, doctors provide oxygen blended air with a higher concentration of oxygen than normal atmospheric air to help them breathe and help their body absorb more oxygen. So the basic respiratory device would consist of an air source, an oxygen source, an oxygen sensor, and FiO2. FiO2 here refers to a fractional ratio of oxygen. So how much oxygen is going into the system, something to control that. And the whole thing goes through a particular airflow pathway so that they both, the normal atmospheric air and oxygen both mix in the right proportion and are completely blended. And they go into like a flow control and a pressure control mechanism. So these can be achieved through multiple ways. I cannot go into further detail without revealing company secrets, but there's plenty of material available to just give you a general idea of how these happen. And to observe both these parameters, you would also need a flow sensor and a pressure sensor. And there would be like some sort of a display. This can be like a pressure gauge and a flow meter, which are manual, or it could be a full electronic display. Based on the sensor feedback, you would display that, and a user interface to be able to set any of these parameters as per the doctor's wishes. So the doctor would look at the patient, would decide what sort of flow they want to give, what sort of pressure they want to give, and what would the oxygen concentration they want to provide to the baby or the specific patient in question, and then set that accordingly, and then start therapy or basically start providing them respiratory support. So like I was saying, this was a device that we had built in 2019, and we had started marketing, and we were seeing some positive feedback. But as everyone knows, early 2020 was when we entered this so-called 21-day lockdown period, which is till now extended as of date. So what happened in COVID-19, when COVID-19 finally hit India, there were a lot of talks going around about how a country as large as India would be able to deal with it. What sort of, we were painted all sorts of very, very horrific scenarios of what it would look like. And there are many uncertainties about how it was going to play out, what was going to happen, what sort of impact it would have on people's lives, on our economy, on our healthcare system. But one thing was very clear, and to the everyone, almost everyone agreed, was that the Indian healthcare infrastructure was not equipped to deal with it. Our If you give any thought towards how our healthcare infrastructure is built, it's completely based on a referral system. We have very, very basic care at low levels, moderate level of care at district levels, and all our high end care is concentrated only towards the cities. So all healthcare happens on a referral basis. You keep getting referred to the next tier of hospital. So in a scenario like COVID, where the entire country is gone into lockdown, transport is completely shut down, people cannot move from here and there. It was clear that a referral-based model where patient keeps getting shifted from place to place to place would just not work, and it would be very difficult to maintain or provide the required healthcare to all these patients. So one of the major requirements that came up was the need for HFNC devices. So HFNC stands for high flow nasal cannulas. I know most of the people who have been exposed to general news would only have heard about ventilators and how like India needs X amount of ventilators, Y amount of ventilators. Someone donated 1,000 ventilators, someone donated 500 ventilators. But if you talk to any clinician who actually was on the ground dealing with COVID-19 patients day in, day out, one very important observation that almost all of them had was uh, putting a COVID-19 patient, a severely affected COVID-19 patient on a ventilator is pretty much giving them a death sentence. It's because when someone is put on a ventilator, essentially you have a machine that does 100% of the breathing for you. Your lungs are no longer in the picture. The machine is completely breathing for you. So it's essentially, let's say some muscle in your body you stop using. The next thing that happens to it is it starts atrophying or it starts wasting away because you're not providing it any exercise. So one of the early observations that a lot of doctors made was they did not need ventilators. They needed respiratory support devices which were non-invasive and which would help the patient breathe. And one of the main contenders or one of the primary ways of doing that was through HFNC or high flow nasal cannula. So it's in a therapy in which you provide very high volume or high velocity, high flow air directly into the patient's nose. So that keeps on pushing fresh air into the lungs and helps clear any congestions in the lungs, firstly. Secondly, keeps cycling the air that is in the lungs so that there's no dead air remaining in the lungs. There's no carbon dioxide buildup in the lungs, and hence patients' oxygen saturation levels keep at a healthy level and those are maintained throughout. So the need of the hour was for respiratory support devices which reduce invasive ventilation and which also allow for better lung recruitment. And one more very unique Indian problem was that we just didn't need a device like this. We needed hundreds of devices like this, because in a country as large as ours, we would have COVID cases across the country, and we would need to deploy these solutions in a quick time across multiple geographies and in large numbers. So it was not just a solution that was required; it was a solution suitable for mass deployment as well. So here, Inaxcel as a company decided we were already in the respiratory care system. We were working on our current offering was a neonatal offering or on a device that was only suited for use on babies. But within 2 months, we upgraded our current device and we made it suitable for all types of adults, all types of patients with all types of patient interfaces. And we designed and developed this product. We call it the SANS Pro. So as you can see by the image, it looks very similar to our original SANS neonate, which you saw in the video. That's because we essentially took the same architecture and upgraded the system to be able to provide a larger volume of air. So to give you an example, for most babies, the therapy is given about 10 LPM of air, that is 10 liters per minute. But for most adults, the doctors would recommend somewhere around 60 to 80 liters per minute. So it's a 6 to 8x increase in the performance output needed from the device. So Within 2 months, our team here at Inaxel was capable of designing or upgrading the existing system and making it robust enough and also mass manufacturable so that it could be deployed across India. And this was the product that we came out with, which is called the SaaS Pro. SaaS Pro, we deployed it using the help of ACT Foundation, which is the Action COVID team. So this photo here is of a patient here in Bangalore, so I had gone to a particular ICU in Bangalore. I will not name the hospital for anonymity, but this was a patient waiting for a ventilator to be free with severe respiratory distress. Till the only option that the doctors had was a ventilator, and none of the ventilators were free as well to be put on him. And facing severe respiratory distress, we were able to give our device. The patient was stabilized within a matter of an hour, and I'm happy to say that he was completely cured of COVID, and he could go back to his family and continue his normal life or whatever goes for normal in these lockdown times. So we have similarly our devices. We have deployed over 200 devices across India, across various geographies, and we have had impact and saved thousands of lives using our solution. So this was the story till late December or even early Jan of this year. But as I think the overall in the nation, the mood was that we were coming out of COVID, but in April 2021 we were hit with an even more devastating second wave. So, and just like most of the governments and bureaucracies, we were also caught unawares. We were not expecting such a high number to rise again, but we took the challenge, and we decided that we can't just give the same product out again. We have had over 200 deployments of our device, and we've had a lot of learnings from them, and we need to implement that, and we need to give an even better solution this time. We need to be able to impact even better this time, and we need to be able to reach a lot more people this time. So few of the learnings that we had, which we implemented in our second wave device. The primary one being the efficient oxygen management. So there was a lot of hue and cry in the news about a lot of oxygen crisis, shortage of oxygen in across multiple states, Delhi, Mumbai, name it, and there was an oxygen shortage. So one of the primary reasons was that most devices that do oxygen management or oxygen therapy have manual control. They have very leaky systems, inefficient systems. So we wanted to tackle the problem of efficient oxygen management. How do we make sure that we use the oxygen that is available efficiently enough to be able to save and impact as many lives as possible? Second very important point was reducing caregiver interaction. So during COVID, I don't know how many of you have had the chance to ever wear a PPE kit, but let me tell you from personal experience, an hour in that feels like hell. And I kudos to all the caregivers and doctors and nurses out there who stayed in those PPE kits for days on end. But every single time they step into an ICU to tweak some device or take some reading or make some changes to the device, they're increasing their risk. So one of the key features we wanted to tackle in development was reducing the caregiver interaction as much as possible. Third point was improving the form factor, reducing the size of the device, trying to make sure that it occupies minimum space in the ICU, which is already a very hectic environment, which has all sorts of tubes and wires hanging around. How do we make sure that our device is as sleek and as small as possible? And the fourth and sort of final design consideration or sort of objective that we had was localizing procurement. One of the side effects of the COVID pandemic was that it hit all logistics networks across the world. A lot of parts were in shortage. Getting in anything delivered from outside India was a pain. Customs borders were shut. Ships were not traveling. Flights were non-operational. So in this scenario, procuring anything from outside India is almost impossible, or has too long of a lead time to be viable to be used for the current scenario. So given that, one of the things that as a man at a management level or at a company level we decided was that we're going to do 100% procurement in India, in-house, and make it a completely make in India product. So based on these learnings, we came out with another device, or rather an upgraded version of our device called SaaS Pro version 2.0. So as you can see, we were able to reduce the size. We made it a completely digital based system. So this system does not use any manual flow meters. It has completely automated pressure and flow control. And one of the key USPs that this has is automated oxygen flow management. So the doctor can just set whatever fraction of or percentage of oxygen they want to achieve, and the device will get to that itself automatically. It is set to that level. It will manage the oxygen flow efficiently to ensure that there's zero wastage of oxygen, that there no oxygen leaks out away from the system. And one more advantage this has is, during the oxygen crisis, a lot of hospitals were receiving oxygen which was not of the required purity. So generally oxygen cylinders are 99% pure oxygen, but during the pandemic we saw places where they were getting oxygen cylinders of 80%, 50%, 60% purity. So in that scenario, using our oxygen sensor, we were able to smartly modify, and we had developed a control system algorithm which ensured that the final oxygen concentration that reached the patient was the one that the doctor required to. So no matter what the internal purity of oxygen is coming in, the therapy that is delivered to the patient is always accurate. So that and one of the major achievements was a completely made in India product. From end to end, everything was done in India, manufactured in India, assembled right here in Mysore. So that was one of our major challenges that we took up, and we managed to achieve that. So this was our solution, SaaS Pro 2.0. And with this system, we have deployed it across almost all of India. So if you can see the map, the red dots show the locations of where SaaS 2.0 was installed, and the blue locations are for SaaS Pro 1.0. So over 400 installations across 30 plus hospitals and more than 5,000 lives impacted. We have had a lot of success with this device, and we have, as you can see, we managed to cover almost all of India. And our next target is, in fact, northeast of India. We are currently in talks with Assam and Mizoram to be able to deploy more devices there. And one of the targets that we have is to ensure that every single state of India we cover with at least 5 installations. So that's about our deployments of our devices. So in these last 2 years, we've been working very closely with the ICU and respiratory care sector of the healthcare industry in India. We've had a lot of close interactions with many doctors in in varied geographies, in different kinds of hospitals, different kinds of resource settings, right from the niche multi-speciality, very high-end hospitals of metro cities, to the low PHC, CHC centers where there's like just maybe one doctor who's managing the entire care for the full locality. So we've collected a lot of feedback from them, and we have also had a lot of experience in developing this and deploying this, troubleshooting this. So using that, we have decided to go back and revisit our original device that we have manufactured in 2019, which was a neonatal device. So we are launching another device called SaaS Neo. So SaaS Neo is an IoT-enabled multi-patient, multi-therapy respiratory support device. So what I mean by that is, this is a device that you can use across patient populations. You could use it in a neonatal ICU or an NICU on a premature baby to help it breathe when it has underdeveloped lungs, or you could use it in a pediatric population that's anywhere between age 2 to 14, or in an adult range. So it works across the spectrum of population. So just like medtech is there with you right from birth to death, this device can also help for and no matter what your age, and also multi-therapy. So it can give you HFNC. Apart from that, there are multiple other modes of respiratory therapy as well, which are also gaining more popularity. So even that, this device will be able to support. So this is our plan for the future in terms of this device. Uh, in summary of what my learnings have been, or what I would take away from my experience in the last 2 years. One of the things that anyone who's building a new device in medtech, especially, but in general, so I've broadly broken down into three major categories. First is platform based. So, uh, one of the learnings that we had was, or rather, the advantages that we had while designing this was because we took a very platform based approach where things could be added and removed and flexibly connected as modules on top of each other. We had a lot of flexibility in terms of our offerings. So as and when things kept changing in the dynamic COVID scenario, we were able to adapt to it more easily, more quickly, and we were able to deploy solutions and be able to help our doctors and nurses faster and more efficiently as well. So, like for example, the oxygen concentration piece. So since we had developed that as an independent module, we were able to quickly add it to our exist or our to all our new product offerings. But at the same time, we were able to also go back to our old devices and retrofit them and provide them with this additional feature very easily with no hassles, and enable even doctors who are using our older versions of our device to manage oxygen more efficiently. So that's one of the key things I think anyone who's designing or developing any device should take into consideration, of seeing how you can make it a platform based solution, something that will help you deal with the changing on the ground scenarios and adapt to them and pivot more quickly and more easily. So that's point number one. Second is connection. So 5G revolution, as we all know, is coming. Internet of Things is exploding, and the obviously the future of the world is more interconnected. So this is a very important consideration in medtech, especially being able to collect data remotely would be a game changer. That's one of the things that a lot of companies are working towards, and even government of India is pushing towards, of how to monitor and collect data from all deployed solutions remotely, so that analysis can happen at a uh, geographical level or at a larger level. So one of the major advantages of this, to give an example, is during COVID time, during the second wave. So if you analyze how the second wave transpired, Kerala and Maharashtra were the two main regions where the second wave sort of started, and there was data available of the rising number of cases, and some of it was collected and some of it was analyzed, and there were some people warning about the advent of a second wave. But if this was done at a more structural level, or this was enabled at a more systematic level, these analysis could have been could have helped uh, everyone make better decisions of how to deal with the upcoming second wave, or rather, or even given enough time, we could have prevented the second wave altogether. So this is one major important factor that you should consider during your designs. And the third is design flexibility. So this is a little off topic, but since it's all electronics engineers, I think it's something that I should talk about. We all keep hearing about the global chip shortage. So I have to deal with that on a day in day out basis as a part of my work. Just to give you an example, in the last about 8 months, we have had to redesign the same PCB about 4 times because of lack of availability of some of the chips that we have selected. So after the first time we had to do that, we overall as a company, we decided to change our design thought process. to make, even at a PCB design level, to make things flexible, plug in, plug out sort of system. So pivoting from one architecture to the other, or pivoting from one component to the other, should be as simple as possible with the least amount of hassles. So I feel, given the current scenario, chip shortage is something that we are going to have to keep dealing with for the next 1 to 1.5 years. So anyone who's doing any development right now, be it at a prototype stage, uh, pilot stage, or mass production stage, one of the major considerations that you have to keep is that you're going to have to deal with the chip shortage. Things that you have decided today will run out of stock a couple of weeks from now. So you have to start thinking about how you would deal with it. If option A is not available, I need to have option B, C, D, E, F ready to be able to quickly interchange and move ahead and keep my pace of development steady. So that's one more consideration, or one more key point that you need to keep in mind during any future development. So uh, that concludes my talk. If anyone has any questions, you can go ahead and ask, or if you want to get in touch with me, you can connect with me at sumed@inaxle.com, and you can email me your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumit. If anyone has any question, they can please type in or unmute themselves. So I just wanted to know that how the people, like how the caregivers took, how much time it took them to like be easy operate your device, or like.
So I'll give you an example. So initially, our original device, SaaS Pro, on an average, it took the caregiver about 3 to 5 minutes to set up the whole device, to connect it to the patient, set the parameters as they want, monitor to their heart's content, and then move ahead. So that was one of the. So we did a lot of observations in ICUs of people using our device as a part of our process. Once we have deployed our device, we shadow the doctor or the nurse who's using the device to see if there's any usability factor issues and what are the scopes of improvement. So in that recorded observation, we recorded about 3 to 5 minutes. That was in our version 1.0. Once we moved to we took this as a design consideration and improved our device, we reduced it down to about 30 to 45 seconds. So within 30 to 45 seconds, they can put it on a patient, just two knobs, just turn them to the right level, and they just move away. The device will make sure that the correct therapy is given to the patient. So that's the sort of improvement we're talking about.
That's really impressive. People are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Certainly in COVID times, that was, I think that must be a blessing for many.
Yeah, I mean, we were happy to help as much as we could, and happy to see that we were able to deploy our solution across multiple hospitals and impact a lot of lives.
Certainly. Thank you for sharing your work, your experience with us. And it
Thank you
was
so much for
really so engaging and so informative to we know all this. So from our part, we have just this, I'm just sharing. So we have this small plaque, virtual
Thank you so
plaque
much.
for you to
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
for being a part of this day.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much for
much.
having me. Yeah,
You may stay back if you want. There's one more talk lined up.
sure, sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.